Hello, welcome, Linda. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm wonderful. Good, good. I understand we've got the Olympics going on that we might be competing against too. So I didn't realize that that was happening at this
Oh,
exact time.
no wonder none of my shows are on.
Right? Exactly. Exactly. Oh my goodness. So how are you doing? Are you going to TAC? What is your level?
I'm me, myself, and I. I'm brand associate or
Oh,
something.
okay, okay, okay. I just
I
didn't know
had
if you
three
were
or four
becoming.
people under me. And yeah, I had three or four people under me and it all fell apart. So,
So we're starting from scratch, but have a good attitude, nowhere to go but up, all those good things.
yeah, yeah. And I have other complicating issues
Yeah.
on
How's your basement
with,
coming along? Have you gotten down there at all?
on, well, after I got sick and stuff, I've only gotten down there a little bit.
Hmm.
Yesterday. I helped a friend by cleaning. She was out of town, and I did a spring cleaning in her house the other day,
Hmm.
and I was so sore yesterday I couldn't even bend over. So I didn't go back down to the basement, but I just a little bit, just working on it a little bit. It's such an enormous task to go through every box, every tote, try to decide what you're going to keep, what you're going to get rid of, and then try to put everything in logical totes, and I've got, I've been out of the house now almost 50 years, out of my parents' house almost 50 years. So
Yeah.
it's just like, no, I guess 40 some years. So it's like,
It's interesting you say that because a patient of mine just recently got married and she's almost 70, so it's her second marriage. But her husband moved in, and at the time that his mother had become ill, he was very sick and had surgery, and then she subsequently passed. And he has all of these boxes that when they got married and he moved into her home, all these boxes are everywhere, and it's difficult because some of these boxes are painful just to go into because of the memory of the circumstances
yeah,
and his mom and so forth. And so there's a lot of stuff that we get caught up with in that as well, aside from physical difficulties that can be cumbersome, but emotional difficulties can be there too. And I see Peggy Gleason
yep,
and Ruth Ellen
yep.
have joined us as well.
Hello.
Hey, Miss Peggy, how are you, sweetheart?
How you doing?
Are you getting ready for your big
Awesome.
trip?
I may have to jump on an unexpected three-way, but if I do, I'll be right back.
Perfect. When are you heading down here?
No, those always are the priority, right?
Yeah. Yeah. When are you heading down this way? Saturday? Peggy,
What?
when are you heading down this
Yes, I
way?
can't hear you.
Oh,
Uh, Saturday morning.
Saturday morning. Okay.
Yeah, can't wait. Oh my
Oh,
goodness,
oh, I know.
cannot
Glenda's
wait.
working so hard. I'm very, very excited. Yeah.
Yes, yes, I'm looking so forward to seeing her and Pat. It'll be awesome.
Yes.
Awesome.
I'm so
We're
excited.
gonna
Thank you.
miss you.
I'm going to miss you too, but thank you for being the initiator of all this. And I'm looking forward to seeing all the fruits
Not
that are
at
going to
all.
come
It's my
from it.
pleasure. I'm
Mhm.
like
Yeah. And this will be a build on
awesome.
for the future with the group that you have there, whether or not they can come today. So that'll be terrific. Not today, this weekend, Saturday, Sunday. Yeah. Ruth Ellen, I see that you're
Someday.
here too, sweetheart. How are you? She might be muted out. And Darnell, I'm glad that you made it.
Good evening.
Hello. Hello. Oh, and there's Ruth Ellen.
Hi there.
Hey, gorgeous. How are you?
How's everybody? I'm good. I'm tired. It's been a long day.
Isn't it been? Yeah, it's been busy, busy, busy. I know we've got a lot. Are you coming down to Cancun?
No, I'm not.
No, you're not. You're not going to be there. Yeah, I'm in the midst. I've got packing and getting everything in order and getting my son ready to go stay at our other son's house. And so I'm just trying to
Nice.
put it all together before we go. And yeah, making sure that all the team is supported and loved and all that good stuff. It's a lot of good things going on. But we're past our 8:00. Let's dive in. Let's get started. And we're going to start out with a review because I know there's always some more people that will come and jump on with us as we go forward. So let me just mute everybody. And then you guys can unmute yourselves, or you can raise your hand, or you can type in the chat box, questions, comments. I definitely want this to be a participation thing. So we're working on this together. Okay. So of course we are reading The One Thing by Gary Keller. And we're going to be finishing up part 1, which are the lies that mislead and derail us. And so last week we covered chapters 6, A Disciplined Life, which said, don't be a disciplined person, be a person of powerful habits and use selected discipline to develop them. Build one habit at a time. Success is sequential, not simultaneous. And develop a few significant habits one at a time over time. This is why in our 65 days in a wake up, we start out with doing the 2 coffee shop interviews in the 1 3-way, and then we work on the follow-up thereafter, because you have to focus on this one type of activity and creating that habit before you can go on and do more. Give each habit enough time. Stick with the discipline long enough for it to become routine. Habits, on average, take 66 days to form. Once a habit is solidly established, you can either build on that habit or, if appropriate, build another one. If you are what you repeatedly do, then achievement isn't an action you take, but a habit you forge into your life. You don't have to seek out success. Harness the power of selected discipline to build the right habit, and extraordinary results will find you. And then we also covered chapter 7, willpower is always on will call. And that is a big fat lie we found out. And we always think that it's something that we can manage and handle. But truthfully, hang on if I can find my page. There we go. Okay. Oh, I went way too far. Hang on one second. There we go. Okay, so don't spread your willpower too thin. You have a limited supply. Decide what matters and reserve your willpower for it. Monitor your fuel gauge. Full strength willpower requires a full tank. Never let what matters most be compromised simply because your brain was underfueled. Eat right and regularly. Time your task. Do what matters most first each day when your willpower is at its strongest. Maximum strength willpower means maximum success. And mind your motivation. Your motivation, attention, and beliefs about your willpower also impact your self-control. He goes on to say, don't fight your willpower. Build your day around how it works and let it do its part to build your life. Willpower may not be on will call, but when you use it first on what matters most, you can always count on it. And so tonight we're going to begin chapter 8 and we'll finish out chapter 9. So 8 is about a balanced life. And we talk about this all the time, especially women are expected to be masters at balancing their lives. And there's a quote by Keith Hammonds, which says, the truth is, balance is bunk. It is an unattainable pipe dream. The quest for balance between work and life, as we've come to think of it, isn't just a losing proposition. It's a hurtful, destructive one. Nothing ever achieves absolute balance. No matter how imperceptible it might be, what appears to be a state of balance is something entirely different. An act of balancing. And it is seen as something we ultimately attain. Balance is actually something that we're constantly doing. And it reminds me of the idea of spinning plates, right? You have to spin those plates on top of those sticks. And so you have to pay attention to one, and then you have to move over and pay attention to another, or one will fall. And if you let one fall, then eventually they're all going to fall. And so it can be a very, very difficult process. It's something that needs to be managed, and we don't want you to put your very important things in your life in a precarious position, such as a plate on a stick that is spinning, right? So a balance, he says, I want you to consider it. I want you to challenge it. I want you to reject it. A balanced life is a lie. Then he goes on to talk about the golden mean. It's a moderate middle between polar extremes, a concept used to describe a place between two positions that is more desirable than one state or the other. This is idealistic, but not realistic. Balance doesn't exist. And then he goes on to say that purpose, meaning, significance, these are what make a successful life. Seek them, and you will most certainly live your life out of balance, crisscrossing an invisible middle line as you pursue your priorities. Extraordinary results require focused attention and time. Time on one thing means time away from another. This makes balance impossible. And this reminded me of how we spoke before about the idea of how computers, and we're supposed to be able to multitask, and how that was changed in concept from what computers do, which is changing from one task to another, whereas in us, we're supposed to do everything all at the same time, and that's absolutely impossible. And so that perfect balance is something very difficult to achieve, where you're going to have, hello, Colleen, you're going to have issues where there's going to be time will be lost from other things. And it's about deciding what things you can sacrifice. And the sacrifice is worth it because you're going to have something so much greater in the long run than you would if you were just playing it safe, right? We want to be able to step out of our comfort zone. Okay, so and he goes on to talk about the genesis of a myth, and the term work-life balance wasn't coined until the mid-1980s, when more than half of all married women joined the workforce. We went from a family unit with a breadwinner and a homemaker to one with two breadwinners and no homemaker. And anybody in their right mind will know who got stuck with the extra work in the beginning, right? The women had to pick up that extra stuff while still trying to pursue that career and that equality in life. And then, of course, by the 90s, that work-life balance had now become a common watchword for the men as well. And then it's not a coincidence that all this ramp up of effort and even technology parallels the rise of the belief that something is missing in our lives. Infiltrated space and fewer boundaries will do that. And then he goes on to talk about middle mismanagement. And this is where we have the idea, the desire for balance makes sense. Enough time for everything and everything done in time. It seems like a perfect world. And the world isn't perfect. Things happen. Babies cry. Children get hurt. They get sick. You have to pick them up from school. Things happen at work. You know, there are all kinds of things that can come up that will throw a wrench into your plan. This does sound so appealing, and it makes us feel serene and peaceful, but again, it's a lie, right? If you think of balance as the middle, then out of balance is when you're away from it. Get too far away from the middle and you're living at the extremes. The problem with living in the middle is that it prevents you from making extraordinary time commitments to anything. In your effort to attend to all things, everything gets shortchanged and nothing gets its due. How many of you have ever been in a place where you feel like, oh my gosh, nothing's ever good enough. I can't get this done. It's not going to work. Everything I try to do is falling apart, right? Okay. I've been there. I've had that sensation. It's awful. But the truth is, you're going to have to make some sacrifices. And sometimes that's time. Sometimes it's money. And you need to think about the things that you are willing to sacrifice in order for the things that will be that tremendous, extraordinary result in the end. Pursuing a balanced life means never pursuing anything at the extreme. So if you're balanced, and he shows this little graphic here, okay? And look at how boring. There's nothing going on. It's just this little right down the middle, like a little spine, and there's nothing exciting that's happening. And then when we talk about work life at the extremes, you can have your own set of problems if you're constantly living at the periphery and not paying attention to other things that do have importance in your life. So knowing when to pursue the middle and when to pursue the extremes is in essence the true beginning of wisdom. Extraordinary results are achieved by this negotiation with your time. I love the idea of negotiating with your time. And so that gives you a sense of control, a sense of participation, a sense of the time is not getting away from you. You're actually able to negotiate it and plan it. And I don't want you to be overwhelmed and overrun in your lives by merely the tick of the clock. Remember, we had talked about before, earlier in the book, about a compass, and then I was taught by one of my trainers, Mark Januszewski, about following the compass rather than following the clock. So it's good to set time-related goals. However, you need to be sure that you're following the direction, the compass. As long as you're headed in the right direction, making progress, then you're in a better place than if you were just setting yourself by a time clock, because that'll just make you crazy in the end. Excuse me. The reason we shouldn't pursue balance is that the magic never happens in the middle. I love that. Magic happens at the extremes. The dilemma is chasing the extremes presents real challenges. We understand that success lies at the outer edges, but we don't know how to manage our lives while we're out there, right? And that's scary. Again, we're out of our comfort zone for that. When we work too long, eventually our personal life suffers, and you have the idea of I've got no life. And sometimes we get hit from both sides. Some of us face so many personal and professional demands that everything suffers and breakdown is imminent. Again, I have no life. Just like playing in the middle, playing to the extremes is the kind of middle mismanagement that plays out all the time. But there's an interesting thing that I want you to remember. And you know, having lost my father and my papa when I was very young, I was 13 and 15 when they both died of cancer. And that was really the beginning of my path of wanting to help people to make better choices, to live better lives, and to minimize the risk of becoming statistics. This next section is so powerful for me because time waits for no one. And it goes on to talk about a friend of his wife where the mother was a teacher and the father was a farmer, and they scrimped, saved, and had done with less their entire lives in anticipation of retirement and travel. And the story is very sad because the truth is when they finally got to that point, the mother never got to her retirement years. In her final years of teaching, she developed cancer and passed. The father never felt good about spending the money that they had saved because it was something they had saved to do together, and she wasn't there to share it with him. And when he passed away and the wife's friend went to clean out the home, she discovered a closet full of fabric and dress patterns, which were the dreams, that they were the fabric of her dreams of what she had intended to do once they got to that retirement time. And so that, to me, is just heartbreaking to think that someone had waited their entire lives and missed it all, right? You don't want to miss it. And this is where he talks about things that are so important. And these are the things when we talk about the one thing. Sometimes the one thing is one item, and sometimes it's something else depending on the circumstances. Then they go on to say the contents were so full of unfulfilled promises that they were heavy to lift, according to the father who had passed on. Time waits for no one. Push something to an extreme and postponement can become permanent. And then he asks, do you really think you can ever get back a child's bedtime story or a birthday? Do you think you can cut a deal with God that time stands still for you, holding off anything important until you're ready to participate again? When you gamble with your time, you may be placing a bet you can't cover. Even if you're sure you can win, be careful that you can live with what you lose, right? And so those moments, you can't get them back. Those times of a child receiving an award, the times of being there for a friend or a spouse in a time of need, those things are so important. And he's going to go on and talk more about that very, very delicately and in a beautiful way to help you to understand that. Toying with time will lead you down a rabbit hole with no way out. Believing this lie does its harm by convincing you to do things you shouldn't and stop doing the things you should. Middle mismanagement can be one of the most destructive things you ever do. So, if achieving balance is a lie, then what do? Counterbalance. The things we presume to have balance are really just counterbalancing, and counterbalancing is done well gives the illusion of balance. And so he talks about the long and short of counterbalancing. When we say we're out of balance, we're usually referring to a sense that some priorities, things that matter to us, are being underserved or unmet. The problem is when you focus on what is truly important, something will always be underserved. There will always be things left undone at the end of your day, week, month, year, and life. When the things that matter most get done, you'll still be left with a sense of things being undone, a sense of imbalance. Leaving some things undone is a necessary trade-off for extraordinary results, but you can't leave everything undone, and that's where counterbalance comes in. And this reminded me of what my midwives had told me when I had my children. They said it was really important for me to be well rested and to sleep when the baby was sleeping. Okay, that the dirty dishes would always be there. The dust would still be there. It wasn't going to go away. I wasn't going to miss it. But the time that I needed to rest, to heal my body, to be better for taking care of the baby. And then also the time to be there to watch them, to see the growth and the advancement and the wonderful steps that those firsts that are so critical, all those things that you don't want to miss. All that other stuff really doesn't matter. It really doesn't. To have a happy home, it doesn't need to be perfectly clean, right? You can have a loving, wonderful home without perfection. And that's sometimes people forget. And so they think that if they come into life that everything has to be absolutely perfect. Hello, Kim. Welcome, welcome. Okay, so the idea of counterbalancing, that you never go so far that you cannot find your way back or stay so long that there is nothing waiting for you when you return. This is so important. So if you think about people who will work crazy hours, like 11 hours a day, they were 67% more likely to suffer from heart disease. Counterbalancing is essential to your well-being. And here's where it's really kind of interesting. Extraordinary results at work require longer periods between counterbalancing. Remember how we looked at that perfect little depiction of being perfectly balanced down the middle? And I love this because look at how this works, okay? We can see that there is your personal life and your work life, and they're different from each other, but they have their own peripheries, they have their own center, they have their own kind of like a pattern that you would follow. And you need to be able to recognize that you have to look at things specifically, that there isn't an exact equality in everything that you do. Okay, so there are these two types of counterbalancing between work and personal life and the balancing within each. The key ingredient is focused time over time. To achieve an extraordinary result, you must choose what matters most and give it all the time it demands. This requires getting extremely out of balance in relation to all other work issues, with only infrequent counterbalancing to address them. In your personal world, awareness is the essential ingredient. Awareness of your spirit and body, awareness of your family and friends, awareness of your personal needs, None of these can be sacrificed if you intend to, quote, have a life. So you can never forsake them for work or one for the other. You can move back and forth quickly between them and often even combine activities around them, but you can't neglect any of them for very long. Your personal life requires tight counterbalancing. And again, you can see that the red portion is the lifeline, and that's the one where it's very, very tight. There's very little deviation, whereas the work one has much greater extremes. And so that's what you need to keep in line, is you need to focus on what's important first. And we talked last week how I said, for me, it's God first, my husband, my children, my work, right? And so you need to have that in your own self of what your priorities are, and make sure to keep that in a place where they are all being given the proper time and respect. Okay. So in the personal life, going short lets you stay connected to all the things that matter most and move them along together. Whereas in your professional life, you go long and make peace with the idea that the pursuit of extraordinary results may require you to be out of balance for long periods. Okay? It allows you to focus on what matters most, even at the expense of other lesser priorities. In your personal life, nothing gets left behind. At work, it's required. Okay, so you're not going to ignore your family. You're not going to ignore your personal needs, your sleep, your food, your exercise, your peace of mind. You're not going to sacrifice those. You need to be able to think about what is sacrificable. That is something that can be left by the wayside for a period of time while you focus on the thing that matters more, so that you can achieve those extraordinary results. Now, this is really beautiful. Imagine that work is a rubber ball. If you drop it, it will bounce back. And the other four balls, family, health, friends, and integrity, are made of glass. If you drop one of these, it will irrevocably be scuffed, nicked, or perhaps even shattered. Right? Think about that. I thought that was just such a beautiful analogy. He goes on to say that life is a balancing act. The question of balance is really a question of priority. When you change your language from balancing to prioritizing, you see your choices more clearly and open the door to changing your destiny. Extraordinary results demand that you set a priority and act on it. When you act on your priority, you'll automatically go out of balance, giving more time to one thing over another. Going out of balance, you must. How long you stay is your priority, right? So you need to think about it. What do I need to do that's important where I can stay out of balance to accomplish that greatness? Go home and be clear about your priorities so you can go back to work. When you're supposed to be working, work. And when you're supposed to be playing, play. And so I think about that, and I think about Cancun next week, and I'm so excited. And I know that there will be some work that we'll be doing, but it'll be a lot of playing and celebration and time to fellowship and work together and do some great planning. But I definitely want to be doing a lot of playing. So the big ideas for this chapter are: think about two balancing buckets. Separate your work life and your personal life into two distinct buckets, not to compartmentalize them, just for counterbalancing. Each has its own counterbalancing goals and approaches. Counterbalance your work budget. View work as involving a skill or knowledge that must be mastered. Give disproportionate time to your one thing, that one thing that's important, like the 2 coffee shop interviews and 1 3-way a day. Your work life is divided into 2 distinct areas: what matters most and everything else. Take what matters to the extremes and be okay with what happens to the rest. It's okay. It'll all work out. Counterbalance your personal life bucket requires a minimum of attention for you to feel that you have a life, requires constant awareness. Never go too long or too far without counterbalancing them so that they are all active areas of your life. Start leading a counterbalanced life. Let the right things take precedence when they should, and get to the rest when you can. Okay, so that's chapter 8. any questions or comments that you guys have from there. Mm-hmm. Yes, ma'am. Miss Ruth Ellen?
So, this is like my life the last year and a half. It's like, I can't even find where I'm supposed to focus. Everything is just all over the place.
Mm-hmm. Okay. It's okay. It's okay.
Definitely need to find balance.
Mm-hmm. Well, remember that balance is a lie. Okay. It's about creating priorities and being able to set them. And with all those people in your home, right, they take a lot of personal prioritization, right? You know, and so, you know, you do what you can. What is your greatest desire? What would you, if we were living in a perfect world, what would be your greatest desire at this point?
My greatest desire is to live alone.
And that's not happening anytime soon. Yeah. What is it you feel like you just can't focus on what you need to focus on?
No, I totally feel that. You know, it's, my mom has dementia. They keep wanting me to go to Texas and California to take care of her, and or take her to California so my brother gets a break, and then I want to build my business. I want to focus on that, you know, and it has significantly hurt me when I was doing my taxes. It was like a big shock.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was different when you say, oh, okay, so my check isn't so big this month, or as big as, you know, a couple months ago, and then to see that it's thousands of dollars less. And I just can't seem to, everybody I get pulled in too many directions, and it's hard for me to find where, you know, my priorities, all of these lies are encompassing my life, and I should shoot them all. I just don't. I'm going to stop talking.
You don't need to stop talking, but I do think that you and I could spend some time together, you know, and talking about some of that prioritization and being able to breathe through the process and finding an awareness of the people who are a part of your team that are going to be sharing the responsibility with you, as opposed to being the only one. And that's part of what we do as we grow, is being able to create more of ourselves in the business. And it's not a simple task. I'm grateful that Tom and Denise have presented an opportunity for us to have a standardized practice for us to be able to train our teams, train ourselves, and then train our teams to be able to go up through it. And I find that to be very comforting in the people in what I did for myself and what I do for my team, albeit there are still times where you have that level of difficulty and you see that decrease and that loss and you think, my goodness, when is this going to come? And that the one thing that I can tell you is that the only failure that doesn't lead to success is the one that makes you stop. And so that greatest success can be just moments away, and you just can never ever get away from it, because if you give up, then you never have the ability to achieve that success level. And so be kind to yourself. Setting boundaries with the people that are around you is very important, and helping to be able to remove the guilt, understanding that there's only so much that you can do, that that it's okay to say, I understand I understand, brother, that you are having some difficulty, but I have a very, very full plate right now. And I appreciate what you're doing with mom. Oh, I'm getting an unstable internet connection. I don't know why. But, again,
I
I'd
did
like
do
to,
that.
go ahead.
I did do that recently. I told them I can't come. They want me for 3 weeks. I agreed to 1 week, but they wanted me to come in December, and I told them no. I mean, I was just there for a month in August. It's too much. It's just too much.
Well, thank you very much for sharing that. And again, I'd like you and I to be able to spend some time together and go deeper on that. Is there anyone,
Okay.
is there anyone else who has some loving support for Ruth Ellen or similar circumstances or issues of their own that have come up as a result of going through the book?
Pamela, I seem to remember that Ruth Ellen, you have a bunch of families staying, like twins and all that in your house, right? Um, and the thing that struck me when you were first talking and saying that you just don't have any time, it sounded like you just need a little time for you, even if it's 30 minutes at 5 o'clock in the morning where you can take a walk or you can do something that's just quietly you and just gain a center or focus. Um, just something where you can be alone and just gather your thoughts. For me, when we were all home at the big house, for me, it was doing the dishes at night. As soon as I said it's time to do dishes, my husband was out the door, my daughter was up in her bedroom, and I was left alone. But I really enjoyed that time to do the dishes. And to me, doing the dishes was very calming. And later I read something that said that when you do that repetitive motion of washing dishes and the water running, it does the same thing in your brain as Prozac. It is that calming to your brain. So for them to scatter and leave me with the dishes was just really calming, and it gave me my centering time and my thought time for the rest of the day, so that our evening as a family was orderly to me and refreshed by the time I was done with dishes.
Thank you, Linda.
Does
That
that
was
help at all?
beautiful. That was beautiful. I really love that. And I'm so grateful for the fellowship that we have here, because I think it's really important. We're no man or woman is an island. And I think it's very important for us to give that love and support to each other. And I think that was just lovely. So thank you, Linda. Okay. All right. So let's go on to chapter 9. And this one is interesting because it's called Big is Bad. And we are kept from our goal, not by obstacles, but by a clear path to a lesser goal. And that's Robert Brault. Who's afraid of the big bad wolf, right? We always think about big and bad together, combined as being paired. From folk tales to folk songs, the suggestion that big and bad go together has been a common theme around history. So much so that many think they're synonymous, and they're not. Big can be bad, and bad can be big, but they're not one and the same. They aren't inherently related. A big opportunity is better than a small one, but a small problem is better than a big one. Big and bad are no more tied together than small and good. Big is bad is a lie. It's possibly the worst lie of all. For if you fear big success, you'll either avoid it or sabotage your efforts to achieve it. I have seen this and I have done this. And so the whole thing about when things are about to pop, you kind of go, I don't know if I can handle this. And you kind of get panicked and freaked out. That fear, you can actually kind of pull yourself back away from greatness that is just about to blossom. And so we need to be able to overcome that. And what happens? Who is afraid of the big, bad, big? If you mention big with achievement, most people's first thought are it's hard, it's complicated, it's time consuming, it's difficult to get there, and complex once you do. And overwhelming or intimidating is what they feel. For some reason, there is a fear that big success brings crushing pressure and stress, that the pursuit of it robs them of not only time with family and friends, but eventually their health. Uncertain of the right to achieve big or fearful of what might happen if they try and fall short, their head spins just thinking about it. And there's a word that he kind of came up with, megaphobia, the irrational fear of big. When we connect big with bad, we trigger shrinking thinking. Lowering our trajectory feels safe. Staying where we are feels prudent, but the opposite is true. When big is believed to be bad, small thinking rules the day, and big never sees the light of it. Okay, a few years ago, our second son, AJ, who lives up in New Jersey, he came down here for a visit, and we went to Orlando. And he wanted to go up in this slingshot. Have you ever seen the slingshot thing? Where it pulls you down and goes, right, okay. So we said, all right, AJ, we will take you over to the slingshot and you can go in the slingshot. And we had my mother, my husband, and all the boys. And AJ was the only one who wanted to do the slingshot thing. And we get there and we find out that you cannot do the slingshot thing by yourself. Okay. So here we have this teenager who wanted desperately to go up in this slingshot thing. And so I thought, I know my mother's not going to do it. And I know my husband's not going to do it. And Gavin and Gunnar, well, Gunnar would never do something like that unless he really felt safe about doing it. He was a teenager too. Gavin was too little. And so I said, okay, I'll go up in the slingshot with you. And I was terrified. And the funny thing was, I was wearing flip-flops because it's Florida and I always wear flip-flops. And I couldn't wear my shoes. And I kept thinking, but what if I fall? I don't have shoes. I'm going to hurt my feet, which was just silly and irrational because if I'm going to fall, I'm going to hurt a lot more than just my feet. And so we go up in this slingshot and they pull you into the ground. It looks like they make it look like it's a volcano, and you're pulled into this hole and you're just getting pulled and pulled and pulled and pulled and pulled. And you're like waiting and waiting and waiting. And you have no idea when this is going to happen. All of a sudden you go and fly up into the air and you're attached to these giant rubber bands, which you think, really? Are this thing really safe? I had patients of mine that were so mad at me. They're like, you have responsibilities to people. You can't put your life in danger, blah, 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 blah. Well, I was terrified. And then when I got up to the top, I felt this sense of peace. It was quiet and it was beautiful. And I looked around. I thought, wow, I'm so glad I did this. Now, mind you, I don't ever want to do it again. But it was a beautiful experience to have. And it was that fear of the big. But if I never did it, I wouldn't have had that beautiful view of being in the free air, looking all over Orlando at night with the beautiful lights. And it was just breathtaking. And it's just one of those things, if you're not willing to step out of that comfort zone, you will not experience things that you can't even imagine. You don't know what's there, and you'll never reach them unless you're willing to take that leap of faith. Okay. All right. So now he goes into a section where he talks about flat wrong. And this is pretty cool too, because how many ships didn't sail because of the belief that the earth was flat? How much progress was impeded because man wasn't supposed to breathe underwater, fly through the air, or venture into outer space? Historically, we've done a remarkably poor job of estimating our limits. Science isn't about guessing, but rather the art of progressing, and so is your life. None of us knows our limits. No one knows their ultimate ceiling for achievement, so worrying about it is a waste of time. You wouldn't want to limit yourself. Allow yourself to accept that big is about what you can become. Big is a placeholder for what you might call a leap of possibility. Bold ideas that might threaten your comfort zones but simultaneously reflect your greatest opportunities. Ask different questions, follow different paths, and try new things. This opens the doors to possibilities that until now only lived inside of you. Thinking big is essential to extraordinary results. Success requires action, and action requires thought. So here's the catch. The only actions that become springboards to succeeding big are those informed by big thinking to begin with, right? You can't get somewhere that you haven't set out to do, right? You have to have a map in order to know where you're going. Make this connection. The importance of how big you think begins to sink in. Thinking informs actions, and actions determine outcomes, right? What you do in the time you work determines what you achieve. Since what you do is determined by what you think, how big you think becomes the launching pad for how high you achieve. Every level of achievement requires its own combination of what you do, how you do it, and who you do it with. And this is really critical because it helps us to understand that the old story of there's a reason, a season, or a lifetime that someone might come into your life, right? And so there are times when we're working with particular people that at that time it's absolutely perfect. But then later on, that person might not be the best person to work with. You may need to have somebody else, or you may have to have that person no longer be there so that you can achieve your greatness on your own. Because sometimes if we have that crutch of someone there, we're not going to do it ourselves. We're going to constantly sit back on our laurels unintentionally or subconsciously and allow the other person or the other circumstance to allow it to happen. Whereas if we're put in a situation where we have no choice, you got to do it. You got to step up to the plate and swing the bat eventually, right? So do something one way and with one set of relationships that may work fine until you want to achieve more. Then you'll discover you've created an artificial ceiling of achievement for yourself that may be too hard to break through. You've boxed yourself in. There is a simple way to avoid it. Think as big as you possibly can and base what you do, how you do it, and who you do it with on succeeding at that level. What you build today will either empower or restrict you tomorrow. So the things you do today will empower or restrict you tomorrow. So how big is your box? And I love that graphic. I'm a very visual person, but this graphic where he talks about the things that we have with this little bitty box, and you're only going to be able to achieve a certain level here. But if you create this larger box, then your expansion level is so much greater, right? Don't close yourself in. Choose your box and choose your outcome. And I love this. Thomas Henry Huxley says, the rung of a ladder was never meant to rest upon, but only to hold a man's foot long enough to enable him to put the other somewhere higher. It either serves as a platform for the next level of your success or as a box trapping you where you are. Okay. So how are you doing that? Are you creating a springboard or creating a box? Asking big questions can be daunting. Big goals can seem unattainable at first. Yet how many times have you set out to do something that seemed like a real stretch at the time, only to discover it was much easier than you thought? Sometimes things are easier than we imagine, and truthfully, sometimes they're a lot harder. When I went through 65 days in a wake up, the first round, I thought as I started out, and I was the first one to graduate, and I thought, how am I going to talk to 2 people every single day? How am I going to pull this off? And then as it went on and progressed, and most of the graduates will tell you the same thing, when you got to about to like the 20th or the 30th day, so 1/3 or 1/2 of the way through, all of a sudden it became easy. You were all of a sudden tripping over people, whereas the beginning you didn't think you'd ever be able to accomplish that. And then there are people that needed to go back because they needed some more time for that growth to happen, because different people will function at different levels, and they may need to stay in that place a little bit more to really solidify that behavior and create the habit, right? So, okay. On the journey to achieving big, you get bigger. Big requires growth. Your thinking, your skills, your relationships, your sense of what is possible and what it takes all grow on the journey to big. As you experience big, you become big. And then he talks about what the big deal is. Growth-minded students, and this is a study at Stanford, employ better learning strategies, experience less helplessness, exhibit more positive effort, and achieve more in the classroom than their fixed-minded peers. They are less likely to place limits on their lives and more likely to reach for their potential. Mindsets can and do change. Like any other habit, you set your mind to it until the right mindset becomes routine. And then blowing up your life. Big stands for greatness, extraordinary results. To live great, you have to think big. You must be open to the possibility that your life and what you accomplish can become great. Achievement and abundance show up because they're the natural outcomes of doing the right things with no limits attached. Don't fear big. Fear mediocrity. Fear waste. Fear the lack of living to your fullest. When we fear big, we either consciously or subconsciously work against it. We either run toward lesser outcomes and opportunities, or we simply run away from the big ones. If courage isn't the absence of fear, but moving past it, then thinking big isn't the absence of doubts, but moving past them. Only living big will let you experience your true life and work potential. And the big ideas for this chapter are to think big, avoid incremental thinking that simply asks, what do I do next? This is at best the slow lane to success, and at worst, the off-ramp. Ask bigger questions. Double down everywhere in your life. If your goal is 10, ask the question, how can I reach 20? Set a goal so far above what you want that you'll be building a plan that practically guarantees your original goal. This is something that Eric Worre did for us at the GoPro event in Las Vegas in November. Don't order from the menu. I love this. Okay. Ignore the menu and order your own creation. People who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the only ones who do. Act bold. Big thoughts go nowhere without bold action. Once you've asked a big question, pause to imagine what life looks like with the answer. If you still can't imagine it, go study people who have already achieved it. What are the models, systems, habits, and relationships of other people who have found the answer? This makes me think about Tom and Denise Chenault and what they do for us. What consistently works for others will almost always work for us. Don't fear failure. Adopt a growth mindset and don't be afraid of where it can take you. Extraordinary results are built on failure too. We fail our way to success. When we fail, we stop, ask what we need to do to succeed, learn from our mistakes, and grow. See it as part of your learning process and keep striving for your true potential. Don't let small thinking cut your life down to size. Think big, aim high, act bold, and see just how big you can blow up your life. And by the way, I wanted to also add that success can take many forms. And success is about doing something that is important, that brings meaning, that helps you to be able to see an accomplishment, to try to do something. And sometimes the success that you're expecting is not necessarily the success that God has planned for you at this particular time. So think about that. I want you to be joyful in your life joyful in your circumstances and be able to recognize that the success that you may have on one day, okay, can be very, very different from the success that you have at another. And allow yourself to create levels of success that are going to make you feel accomplished, even if there's something simple as making your bed in the morning. Okay? If that's all that you can do is make your bed in the morning, at least that's something that you have accomplished. To give yourself that empowerment, that self-love, that ability to understand that you are incredible, that you are successful. And when you start to feel good about the things that you're doing that are the simplest things in your life, and you reward yourself and say, I did a job well done, and that's all that we want to hear at the end of our lives is, well done, my good and faithful servant. Good job, well done. You want to have that. And sometimes the success that you set out for may not be the exact success for this particular point in time. And so I want to keep that in mind as we go through this one thing and think about, what is it right now that God's desire is for my life? So that's chapter 9. So who has any questions or comments? Are you trying to talk, Miss Colleen?
First, I liked what back in the what made sense in the one when you said that, find that balance, like because of work, you could work so many hours, and that was the reason why what I do now is because I worked crazy hours with my 24-year-old that I didn't even get to see him grow the way I would love to have seen him grow. I had to give it over to my parents to help me watch him grow. Where my daughter, I have that different balance, and I'm seeing where that change is, so it's just amazing that when you really make that change for yourself, it's worth it, like you really got to find the time and do what you need to do for yourself to better yourself, basically. So I like that, because
thank you.
family that could shatter, things could break, you got to kind of, I like that rubber ball too.
Isn't that cool?
That was a good analogy.
I like that. And thank you for sharing that. And the truth is too that time changes, circumstances change. And so what may have been perfect for you at that time was not perfect for you at this time, and vice versa. And don't ever live with regret, be purposeful in your life so that you can find that joy, knowing that you gave it your all, that you didn't miss those moments like we talked about, the people that had waited for the end of their lives, and it never happened. Live your life now, enjoy the things that are happening today, and then go forward from there. So next week we're going to take a break because I'll be in Cancun, and the following week we're going to start part 2, which is the truth, the simple path to productivity. And we'll do a recap because it'll be a couple of weeks. So we'll just go through the recap, or the big items, the big ideas for each of the lie chapters. And then we'll start into part 2, the introduction and chapter 10. So that that should give us plenty of time to regroup and cover. Does that sound like a good plan for everybody? Yeah. Okay, good. And if any of you ever need to reach out to me, I'm going to put my number here. Okay, I'm on the East Coast in Florida. So it's 904-703-5553. If you need to get in touch with me, you have a question, a comment, a concern, a recommendation, suggestion, all those things are greatly appreciated. So any last words before we close out for the evening?
Have fun in Cancun.
Oh, I can't wait. Well, we have to work for Jimmy Buffett next year for everybody else, right? You guys have to come to Florida to go to Margaritaville in Fort Lauderdale. That's our next endeavor, our next trip.
Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Have fun next week, Pamela.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you so much. Yeah. Hi, Honey Bun.
Are you going to be on a beach?
Am I what?
Will there be a beach? A beach?
There will definitely be a beach. Yes. Yes. I will be at the beach. Yes.
Although
yes.
you have beach.
I have beach.
You have
here.
beach there, but
I can never get enough of the beach. So
yeah.
We'll be at the beach. Absolutely.
The thought about walking in nice warm sand just is so appealing right now.
Yes, absolutely.
As I look at this mountain of snow and 7 degrees, you know.
Oh, I heard you say that this morning, and I thought, oh, and you're supposed to get 9 more inches of snow. Is that what's coming?
Totally.
Yeah, they said somewhere between 5 and 9 inches tomorrow. During the night tonight and tomorrow, and I have 5 appointments tomorrow, and it's like,
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, be safe, because I know it's not fun. And here, people can't even drive in the rain. It's just ridiculous. If they ever saw ice or snow, I don't know what all of Florida will fall apart. And I know Colleen said it's so bad, even in North Carolina, they can't get it together. They close the businesses because people just don't know how to drive. You know?
The minute it hits, it cancels everything.
Yeah.
So.
Exactly. All right, girls. Well, you have a great evening. Thank you so much. I love you all. God bless. And I look forward to talking with you.
God bless.
All right, take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Take care, everyone. Take
Bye.
care of yourself, Ruth Ellen.
Love you.
I will. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you very much. I appreciate all of you.